TheAnswer.com on the AM560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We were talking with Chris Whalen about some of what Al Gore had to say at the World Economic Forum yesterday. Day 2 of this august meeting of the people who have assembled to save the planet for us, and I think from us, too. John Kerry making that note. Our Greens are on opening day. He's just tickled to be part of this group of superhumans who are going to save the planet. We played the clip of Gore prattling on, making some very dubious claims about where renewable energies are and where electric vehicles are going. And then after that, he went full Greta Thunberg and started chastising the world, really, using his platform to paint, his consistently apocalyptic viewpoint, no matter how many times it's been disproven, and challenging those of us who are recalcitrant to go back to pre-industrial revolution America to do better.
Up. All these promises of the last few years to cut emissions are still going up. When are we going to bring these emissions down? And just to put the science in a slightly different context, people are familiar with that thin blue line that the astronauts bring back in their pictures from space. That's the part of the atmosphere that has oxygen, the troposphere, and it's only 5 to 7 kilometers thick. That's what we're using as an open sewer. If you could drive a car straight up in the air at interstate highway speeds, you'd get to the top of that blue line in 5 minutes. And all the greenhouse gas pollution would be below you. We're still putting 162 million tons into it every single day. And the accumulated amount is now trapping as much extra heat as would be released by 600,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every single day on the Earth. That's what's boiling the oceans, creating these atmospheric rivers and the rain bombs, and sucking the moisture out of the land and creating the droughts and melting the ice and raising the sea level and causing these waves of climate refugees predicted to reach 1 billion in this century. Look at the xenophobia and political authoritarian trends that have come from just a few million refugees. What about 1 billion? We would lose our capacity for self-governance on this world. We have to act.
And then he went on to say this.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Enough, I get the point.
Steve Milloy, founder of JunkScience.com, member of President Trump's EPA transition team, and author of Scare Pollution, Why and How to Fix the EPA, joins us now. Steve, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me.
All right. What do we want? We want to save the troposphere. When do we want to do it? Right now.
Yeah, well, what I think is particularly funny past the boiling oceans is, Al Gore's claim that global warming is like 600,000 Hiroshima-type atomic bombs going off every day. I figure since he's been, using that line, we've survived 1.3 billion Hiroshima bombings, but we're still here. So I don't know at what point he stops believing his own BS. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released year-end data for 2022 last week, and that data shows that over the past 8 years, a period when we have added 14% of all man-made CO2 to the atmosphere, there has been no global warming. In fact, there has been global cooling. And, you got to remember that the global warming con, as Al Gore will be happy to point out, is if you drive to work, you're warming the planet. If you have a cheeseburger, you're warming the planet. If you're using any electricity, you're warming the planet. But yet we've had 450 billion tons of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and no warming. So what does that mean?
Well, and there was some good news last week, and the mainstream media didn't pick up on it, that the United Nations report said that the ozone is slowly healing over Antarctica.
Yeah.
So why did nobody celebrate that? That's good stuff, huh?
Well, so, ozone depletion was the original atmospheric hoax. I talked with Al Gore 15 years ago about this, and, he admitted to me that, the purpose of the Montreal Protocol, which was the treaty to ban all these refrigerants that were supposedly destroying the ozone layer, the purpose was to show that you could get a global environmental treaty. It was not to fix the ozone layer because the ozone layer was not having a problem. That was the original hoax.
Hey, is that a combustion engine I hear? Because that better be.
Yes, it is.
That better be disabled. If that's a combustion engine, what are you doing?
I think it's Al Gore.
Are you trying to create rain bombs, Steve Milloy?
Atmospheric rivers.
What about the rain bombs? And also, too, we've got a problem. We've got the World Bank is headed by a climate denier. This is more from Al Gore. Headed by a climate denier. So, we don't have time for your blah, 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 to invoke the prescient words of Greta Thunberg, Steve. We've got the head of the World Bank's a climate denier. We've got Hiroshima atomic bombs going off. We've got rain bombs. We've got boiling oceans and so forth.
Yeah, so the rain, in California, they've gotten a lot of rain. It's like, what's that all about? Well, from time to time that happens in California. Famously, California was flooded like this in January 1861. That's way before coal plants, SUVs, and cheeseburgers. I don't think, there's no natural disaster that can be tied with emissions. There's no trend in natural disasters that correlates with emissions. This whole thing is a giant hoax that has been made up so that, John Kerry and Al Gore and his buddies at the World Economic Forum can rule the world. These guys have lied about everything. They've never been correct. It is astonishing to me that people still listen to them after all these years.
And, the context of this at the World Economic Forum, too, is important because it's not just John Kerry and Al Gore, a couple of political scavengers. It's all those who underwrite the Al Gores and the John Kerrys. So, yes, the statists, those in positions of power in Western governments, but then the combining of the government power with the corporate power. And this is why... Right. You pay attention to what's happening there is because there's a lot of power being wielded, and it could be wielded on you, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, and it will be wielded on us. I mean, the left has one of the things I've been working on for 20, 30 years now is how the left has been attacking corporate America, and they have gone from attacking corporate America to taking over corporate America. So, the left has completely infiltrated the financial sector like BlackRock, Bank of America, Vanguard, all the big banks, all the financial institutions, and they're all pushing for this, net zero by 2050. And net zero by 2050, of course, net zero is impossible, something that was just admitted recently by the electric utility industry, but that's not going to stop them from trying to get there. And trying to get there, they're going to destroy our standard of living. They're going to destroy our freedoms. And all that's going to happen is that they're going to increase their own, power, prestige, and wealth at our expense.
Right. So COVID zero, net zero, all these absolutist positions, and then the cry. Al Gore talking about a mass refugee crisis and so forth. And that would engender authoritarianism. The mass refugee crisis in places like South America is because of dictatorships like Maduro's in Venezuela. I mean, it's just everything is, of course, reverse flowed when it comes to this discussion. And we have to get to something we can't get to, and we're gonna break a few eggs, if you know what I mean, in trying to get there, as we've seen pursued with zero COVID, slow the spread type policies over the last 3 years. Another target, though, was the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, not a target by Davos, but a target that needs protection from those at Davos. Richard Edelman was one of those from, the Edelman huge PR operation. Was one of those who said, we need to stand our ground on ESG. We need to fight back against conservatives, Republicans that are raising the specter of issues with ESG. He said, you guys, talking about non-governmental organizations that are used by Gates and Soros and so many to advance their agenda, you guys are great at punching but terrible at taking a punch. You have to learn two things. One is to preempt. When they're going to punch you, you got to know they're going to punch, and you say, why are they punching us? We call it pre-bunking. And the other is when they hit you and they're inaccurate, hit back, don't take it. Right? Wonder, wow, profound advice from the PR maven Richard Edelman. What a clown show this is. But the that other piece of it, the NGOs, and how much money is funneled by these billionaire leftists through non-governmental organizations to do what corporate America or the government can't do. And we've seen this. We've seen this. Just one more example. We've seen this at the border. It's actually Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has raised the specter. These NGOs that are facilitating illegal migrants into this country, in contravention of immigration law. They're funded. These are the sorts of organizations that are funded by the sorts of people like Soros and Bill Gates, and they're serving an extra governmental function, which is actually to break the law. And they should be investigated. And this is their attempt to say we need to protect these NGOs that are working around things like, the law.
Well, yeah, and I mean the NGOs are in fact working with the cartels to flood our borders for what purpose? George Soros doesn't care if he destroys America. This whole problem with activists taking over NGOs for political purposes and corporations. One overlooked part of this is the media. I did a report last year highlighting the fact that the Associated Press, which is like the oldest wire service, a venerated wire service, has been paid or is being paid millions of dollars by left-wing NGOs to report just one side of the climate debate. And then I think a couple weeks ago, Fox News reported that it's also the Washington Post and a whole series of big newspapers across the country. And I mean, this is a concerted effort by the left, which only exists to do this. To take over our world, and they'll use anything they can, COVID, climate, I mean, whatever it is, it's going to be gas stoves, right? They just want to tell us how to live.
Final frontier.
So, Steve from junkscience.com, we're just learning this morning from our good friends over at WirePoints that there's legislation in the works to put 10 to 12 wind turbines in Lake Michigan. So the turbines, it's going to cost at least 5 times as much as putting them on land, but do they generate any energy whatsoever?
Well, yeah, I mean, they can generate electricity, but the point is, at what cost? I think it's very important. This has been completely missed by everybody in the media. Late last year, the electric utility industry issued a report saying that there's no combination of wind, solar, batteries, nuclear power, dams, electrification, or energy efficiency. There's no combination of that stuff that gets us to the, Al Gore goal of net zero. None. So I don't even know why we're going down this road, because windmills, solar, all these things just make electricity pointlessly more expensive. And when you take that and you apply that to like poor countries, that means they don't get electricity at all.
Steve Milloy, founder of junkscience.com, member of President Trump's EPA transition team, author of Scare Pollution, Why and How to Fix the EPA. Steve, thanks for joining us. As always, appreciate it.
All right, Dan. Thanks.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Exercise more, lose 10 pounds. Tired of New Year's resolutions you can't keep? Here's one you can keep, saving more for retirement. If you're a small business owner, independent